Alright, we need a static bool we admin call. Yeah, so it'll be like this. Alright, so we want to, I believe, call our game instance. Yeah, it's like get player controller. Alright, so I want to cast this, so a Dashkin player controller, a controller equals cast to a Dashkin player controller, controller, if a controller equals null, return false, otherwise return a controller, server admin. That is good to go. Alright, so game option string controller prototype dot on admin changed equals function, and all we will do is this. So game options is there. This is the actual screen controller. So what we want to do here is add an event listener. Just register for event. Server status changed. Function event name data. And do we already have underscore this? We do. So this dot on admin changed. So now we should get game options if we are administrator access enabled on the server. We should be able to do stuff. Awesome. Well, let's recompile, make sure that we added our stuff, and we should be able to, we can't like enter the admin password, but we can at least like boot up a server and then change stuff if we're a client. So I need to test it out, and then I'll probably check in a default server options if you run a dedicated server locally, which lets you do stuff. So I'll just compile this up. And then see when net mode already defined. Yeah, up there. So we don't need to define it again. And I'm getting pretty hungry. I'm gonna have to go get food at some point here. I think I'll get the default stuff so that I can actually change I can actually connect to a dedicated server and then change stuff, like spawn in some bots and boot them and all that sort of thing. Because that's one of the big things in the next update is we want basically you to be able to run your own server, connect to your own dedicated server, and then if you're the admin, you can spawn bots and change settings and everything like that. It's kind of interesting getting, like, we had this big crunch time or crunch period where we got the game so it's public, but a lot of the code, we just half-assed quite a bit of stuff in there, or hastily wrote stuff in there, and now we kind of are in for the long haul. I feel kind of like we'll see what sort of compromises we have to make, or if like we're kind of at the point where there's going to be some code that sucks, or if it's like are we going to have to take like a big refactor pass at some point and clean up a lot of problems. Acquiring controller, this is us, our team is 0. Alright, so we can add bots and remove them and switch teams and everything, that's fine. That's because we're the host. So the question is, if we run a dedicated server, I'm actually gonna have to boot up a level, aren't I? That's better. Show collision off. Yeah, we don't need to see that. So if I'm going to boot up a dedicated server, it's going to have to be in here. This dedicated server is going to be looking for, like, what folder is this running out of? It's going to be running out of project directory. So I'm guessing here. So we're going to want like a server config. file here? Just so we have all this sort of stuff? And let's see. We need an actual server config path. Otherwise this thing won't do anything. Okay, that works. We have server config set to this string. What if I just set it to server config? And it should print out what we're doing there. Well, it should load up the other server config here to begin with. So why don't we just boot that up and see what happens. Alright, that version, game mode, I don't see constructor for game instance. I don't see it actually booting up with the proper thing. So let's see what happens. Should be able to boot up, and it's not going to let me change any options. Yeah, I can't do jack crap, which is fine. Can I at least change teams? Nah. I can at least change teams because allow team swap is true. But we need to see about passing in command line arguments, or we need to have it auto detect. Yeah, it's probably better to auto detect. So we'll do an else if. So else if u dashkin file utils file exists, and we're gonna say default server config. So it'll be like text server config.json. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and try to load it from here. So if that file exists in our current directory, we will snag it and load it in, and we should be able to check this in so it's nice and simple for us. Alright, I'm checking on that Linux build that I had. Looks like it's going to be cooking for the next 2 million years. File exist does not take any arguments. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So I've got the config set to all of these things and allow all players to change settings to true. So even though it has an admin pass of 1, 2, 3, 4, should have all this stuff set up there, so the dedicated server should do what it does, which is boot up and allow me to run commands remotely, because the UI should now say, hey, you're server admin, so you can now spawn bots and boot people and all that. Now where is it blowing up? Ah, yeah, okay. We changed our command line. It's going to quit application and it's blowing up, which it's supposed to. It's supposed to explode horribly when this happens. When you say, hey, give me a config path, and it's like, yeah, that doesn't exist. Alright, so file didn't exist. So what is the project directory then? Wish I could print it out. I mean, that's where our UE4 solution is. Maybe the project is somewhere else. Where is the U project? Like, generate project files, build batch files. Well, where are we looking for the UI? That should have it. It's just the Dashkin directory. Alright, well, this should be pretty simple. We'll just go to our game instance and we'll just do fstring dir equals u dashkin file utils get working directory. Log working dir is %s star w39. When in doubt, just print to the damn log. Alright, looks like it actually successfully cooked all the assets for our Linux build. And it's making all the pack stuff for it. Maybe that's the Windows build. Did I already finish the Linux build a while ago? Yeah, it might have. Well, that's good. It's doing what it should. Alright, so it's in the binaries Win64 directory? That's the projector, I guess? Huh. The working directory, yeah. Alright, so binaries Win64. So it's here, so if we do 1, 2, we want to go 3 steps out. So we'll add a few paths that we'll check for this thing. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and break all this crap out into a different file. I mean, a different function. It's getting a little bit not fun. Okay, that should load our server config up, and it'll take a look in multiple paths for us. Let's see if that's going to work for this. So our executable is in, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, it should load, yeah. EXE there, yeah, that's wrong. It's going to be like this. This is going to need to be file exists. Oh, what the fuck? Oh man, we'll see. I'll have to wait for this failed build to finish before I can make it succeed. What's happening today? Today is a lot of server configuration work. Basically allowing people to run their own local dedicated servers and configure them and then be able to run as an admin against them so that when they're connected as clients they can do things like boot people or spawn bots. And they'll make it so kind of our official servers can do the same thing where people can spawn bots to play against if they want. But that'll be a little bit more specific because we'll need like some sort of voting mechanic and some more complex commands. But for starters, just let anybody do whatever. Probably except for boot people. We'll probably need an admin command for that one. Or a vote. We need a simple majority. Ah, that's wrong. Are you jumping into this level? No, it's just another day. Loading server config from there. I don't see the spawn bot command. Probably because we haven't actually implemented it in gameplay.js. Yeah, discover host status, load startup data, this discover admin status. So we need to call this function. Are we admin? And then we'll throw the event out there and do that. So that's written. Let's reload that UI. Whoops, wrong button. Now it's not going to do anything, is it? Alright, player controller, host login, player joined, creating, begin play. Alright, so it looks like the player controller is not actually letting us be admin. So begin playing state. If we have server config, pre-login, login, begin play, allow cheats, player controller requesting level data, join succeeded. Alright. So be server admin equals false. Let's see, else. We have no server config defaulting to not allowing users to perform commands. Nah, it couldn't be. Yeah, I'm working on it. Yeah, this is definitely the one and the same. Yeah, it's the website. The game is live for early access right now. We're working on making it better. I'm working on the dedicated server stuff today. You're pretty excited. Now, well, I'm just working on. I'm the engineer on the project, so just working on boring code stuff. So if you're here for like awesome animations and pictures and cool things like that, that's not me. That's Adam. Thank you for following the equal. And if you don't know Adam's stream, and if you don't know about the game, then you can always check out his stream when he's on, because he streams all the art and a lot of like the game design stuff. He streams on the weekends, so that's when he's on. And usually when he's on, we also play the game, and recently we've been handing out codes for, so you can go download it for free and stuff like that. Alright, let's see. Loading server config. Looks like it did load it. Came for the code, alright. Well, if you're working on Unreal, what are you working on Unreal for? Let's see. We have no server config defaulting to not allowing users to perform commands. What? We totally have server config. Do we not set that? Ah, we didn't set it. Didn't set it. That is why we cannot run things. Yeah, well, I'm by no means an Unreal 4 master. I've only been working on this for... Thank you for following. LOA Rosine. I've only been working on this for, Hello, Kento456. I can always barely read your name since it's yellow. It always shows up yellow in my chat, and it's like this bright neon yellow that just like I can barely look at. Yeah, we've been working on this project since January of last year, and that's pretty much my first experience with actually using Unreal 4. I mean, not using dark mode. Yeah, I know. Let me see. You can use dark mode. Oh god, everything's purple. What the hell? Is he still doing the movies? He's the last animation that he put out was the Fat Sack documentary short about how fat sacks are in the world and everything. And we're probably going to have some sort of animation stuff come out this year to go along with the game. It would be more promotional sort of animations. But the idea with this game is that we're gonna try to tell the story through the game. When we get to the single player, we're making a multiplayer game to start with, and that really gauges how much interest there is, how successful a game is going to be, and that kind of tells us how long and how big we should make a game. Because, like, let's say at the end of this year, this game only has, a couple hundred people who play it. It's tough to get like a full match, or, we don't make any money off of anything. It basically means like Adam, if he wants to continue the Bitey story, it's not a good idea to go like, sell the house, mortgage the house and and go bankrupt for this thing. All right, allowing this player as an admin as server config allows all. So hopefully, if everything's successful, we'll have a bigger, more robust single-player game. And if things are not successful, I would imagine he's probably going to use Unreal Engine to make the next animations, like because of all the lighting and everything else. He's interested in maybe just using the Unreal to do cinematics for him, because he can do a lot more if he doesn't have to animate everything individually. He can do a lot more. All right, so we are admin, but did we not get notified of it? Not seeing the stuff. Yeah, so we'll see. And it might be like a light game, right? Like, so maybe you could control Bitey through certain areas that are simple, or advance the story and, have it be more like a game, but have parts of it be animated. So let's see, what's the deal here? When we hit play, player controller change to state, announcing user, we're now an owned actor, this is our team, acquiring controller. Okay. So what I want to know is, okay, so we are admin should be saying we are admin is set to. Okay, so we should look for that in the log. We are admin is set to false, is set to true. Okay, so is something wrong in our game options screen? You're working on a 2D Metroidvania using Paper 2D features. Yeah, we're using Paper 2D for parts of it, but Paper 2D doesn't really support a whole hell of a lot, so we had to really dig through there and make it better. And was the original idea to make a single-player endless runner? Yes, and no. Like, the original idea, of course, is the classic endless runner that Adam was working on for like 5 years, and that whole thing got canceled. But with Unreal 4, instead of Flash and an actual like native game, instead of just running Flash in a browser, the idea was to make a much more involved game with that actually just also tells a story and also has portions of endless runner stuff. Yeah, Paper 2D is kind of, we had to do a lot to get it up to speed, to get it to where I wanted it to be. Well, here's why our UI is screwed up. It's because I have my checks wrong. There we go. Now I can go call add bots on the server when I'm here. I can't delete the bots though. I wonder why that is. Oh, I can also change like allow team swap. That's pretty cool. And it actually is removing the stuff. Yeah, for Paper 2D we had to write a whole custom import pipeline because it's their Paper 2D stuff. Like the problem was defining collision data. So like Paper 2D is set up for, it's got some tools for collision data, but they're all pretty trash. And it doesn't work very well. Like you can't have more than one collision object on it. So like if you want like a bounding box for somebody's head and another one for their fist and all that stuff, you're pretty much screwed. So we upgraded it so we could do stuff like that. And then we also made some editor stuff like this where we can actually see the sprites and everything kind of as they're all playing on a big 3D thing. And you know, that's when you have a whole character, right? Like it's pretty much impossible to deal with Paper 2D. It's just so bare bones. It's not worth it. So you can see all of our collision. It's actually these 3D objects and everything else that are rolling along there. Yeah, you can add collisions to the character blueprint, but all of those are defined like... That's not really going to scale up for a real project. Because kind of how at least we set it up is it's doing per frame collision is a real pain in the ass, and also when we draw these characters in Toon Boom, crap, let me just like try to figure out how do I fucking pan in, alright, spacebar. But like as this character animates, we got stuff like animation events that we need to fire, like this will play a footstep on that frame. The blue box is like his physics collision, everything. So he, the animator in art can always just define everything in here, and then the export process will read it in and do all that. Yeah, no consistency. It's like something in 3ds Max, something in Maya, something completely different in Visio and Sharp stuff, and then something totally different in animation tools. But so we had to build that whole pipeline to import all this stuff because there's, I mean, if you just look at how many frames we have, like those are just the sprite sheets themselves, and how many actual like sprites we have. You know, that's 4,700 individual frames of animation. Like, go through that manually and define collision. I'm not doing that. No, sir. And that's just one character. Yeah. Alright, so we have admin commands. I want to be able to kick bots. Why isn't the bot kick showing up? Bot add, bot kick. Alright, boot click is boot button. ensure switching values. In-game options changed. Alright, we'll do this as well. Are we admin? Okay, so that should hopefully get our button showing up. Trying to handle animation states for so many different animations. Yeah, I've got a lot of code that deals with all that sort of stuff. Because like just the running animations for this character, like, you know, you have to play all these different animations based on different times and everything. It can get nuts. Looks like we're not loading up the well, that's wrong. Alright, so we got AdBot. So why isn't the kick showing up? I screwed it up again. You just win? Oh, I changed the sound. I was like, that's the wrong sound. Yeah. Yeah, it got real complicated. There were a few different things that I did for managing some of that, and then at the end of the day, the thing that actually worked was just manually hooking all that crap up. Yeah, okay, this is wrong. Alright, so this needs to be if the net mode is the dedicated server. Alright, so we need to not do anything there. So if we're a local player, notify on server changed, server admin. Alright, admin status is changed or not changed. Is our event not firing for the other stuff? Should be called server admin status changed. Yeah, we... Jesus. I was not paying attention when I wrote that. No wonder it's screwed up. Yeah, one thing I had to do, like, I don't know if you've worked on extending the editor at all, but in order to extend the editor, I had to do some real shenaniganry to make it all work. Like, in the project settings, the editor, like, we've got Dashkin, which is the game, and it's got, like, almost nothing in the actual game. Like, there's nothing in the game itself. Like, every bit of game code is actually inside of 4 separate plugins, which is, there's like an editor plugin, a runtime plugin, an editor shims, and a runtime shims, so that I can actually, like, make windows in the editor like this. It's a mess. Yeah, I had to break all that crap out just to do that. Because the problem is, like, you have something in the editor that needs to reference your game data, and you have the game that also needs to reference the game data, but it can't reference the editor stuff, right? So you have to, like, put all your logic in a shared space that both of